There's ultra athletes, and then there's Chris Calimano. On today's episode, we'll hear all about Chris's virtual HooDoo 500 race. And as a bonus round afterwards, we'll also get a glimpse into the over 500 races that Chris has accomplished in just 10 years, from ultra running in the deserts, including Antarctica and the Badwater 135, to ironman triathlons, Paris-Brest-Paris, and the Silver State 508. This episode is one packed with adventure, inspiration, and fun. So grab a bag of popcorn and get ready for another episode of Ultra Minded Talk. I'm your host, Justin Tu. Let's roll. Hey, Ultra family, Justin Tu here, your host of the Ultra Cycling Show. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today is a special one because it relates to the HooDoo 500, and our guest today, Chris Calimano Jr., actually completed the virtual category of the HooDoo 500 from his home in Staten Island, New York. He completed his ride in 40 hours and 37 minutes. So Chris, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks so much for having me. Glad you reached out and contacted me. I know a lot about you, and a lot of great athletes on this show, and coming from the youngest Hall of Fame member for the California Triple Crown, it's an honor. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, well, likewise, as everyone will come to see through this episode, it's actually our honor to have you here sharing your 500 plus races just in the last 10 years. You have a whole laundry list of accomplishments, and here's just a few of them. First of all, you're not a paid professional athlete, so that's incredible in itself. Now, you've only been an endurance athlete since 2010, but before you have an NCAA Division I wrestling and Hong Kong rugby background, which, I mean, that's a totally different sports there, so that's very interesting. And you've completed over 500 races, including 150 official marathons or ultras. And I mean, wow, we need a whole separate segment just to cover that. Incredible achievement, especially just in 10 years. You've also completed 20 Ironman triathlons and some of the toughest races in the world, including the 4 desert Grand Slams, Leadville-Leadman series on 2 occasions. You've also done the Absa Cape Epic, which I'm familiar with because I'm originally from South Africa, in fact. You've also done the Badwater Ultra Cup and Paris-Brest-Paris PBP for those cyclists who are familiar with that. Chris, you're also a 2-time RAM solo qualifier and a current Staten Island 50-mile run record holder with a time of 6 hours and 49 minutes. Incredible. Yeah. Well done, Chris. And I can't believe that's only in the last 10 years. Can't imagine what the next 10 years holds for you. So before we dive into more of that, Chris, I'd love to start with a quick sprint round of questions, a short series of questions that we could get to know you in a nutshell with. You could answer just in a few sentences.
Sure.
First question, Chris. How long have you been riding bicycles? You said you started endurance sports in 2010, but when did you actually start riding bicycles and ultra cycling?
It's funny. I pulled up a picture of my first bicycle. I must have been about 5 or 6 years old. Of course, that had training wheels, and it was more just riding through the park.
Yeah, cool.
And just always been cycling with my family, but it was always more along the occasions of going towards the boardwalk on the beach.
Nice.
I got serious about cycling in 2011. As you mentioned, I started racing in 2010. My first race was the New Jersey Marathon. Yeah. And I just knew that the next step was going to be triathlons, and riding on the boardwalk versus riding in a triathlon are 2 totally different experiences. So I had a lot of learning to do.
Right. And so for ultra cycling, did you start in 2011 right from the get-go?
No, just my first triathlon was actually the Providence, Rhode Island half Ironman, and my first real long ride wasn't until 2018 when I knew I needed the qualifier for Paris-Brest-Paris, and that was 400K. Of course, I've did countless number of centuries, either in racing or in training events. But I count ultra cycling as something when you're going sleep deprived and you're going through the night. So 400K in 2018 was my first real ultra cycling event.
Wow. All right. Sounds good. How many bicycles do you own, Chris?
Too many, right? Isn't that the I got
No, not enough, right?
not enough, yeah. Well, it depends who you're asking, the family, I
Yeah.
guess. I have we're a Cannondale family. I have
Hmm.
Cannondale slices set up on my Wahoo kicker, and then I have two Cannondale slices racing bikes, both loaded with the Zips 404 Firecrest. For ultra cycling events, I have a Cannondale that's set up with a hub I think it has like 1200 lume light on it, so I don't have to worry about batteries. It's just
Nice.
self-generating. Um, and then my babies for mountain biking are I have a Cannondale hardtail. And then actually for my mountain bike racing, I use a Salsa Spearfish, and I think they're a Minnesota shop, and it's been great. I mean, that's gotten me through the mountains of Colorado and a lot of mountain biking upstate New York, and we have trails. We actually have 3,000 acres of trails in Staten Island, which is
Oh,
usually surprises people because
yeah.
we're really close to Manhattan here. But yeah,
Right.
so uh, a lot of bikes right now.
Yeah, no, awesome. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. What's your favorite bicycle?
Oh man, for just casual riding, I like my Cannondale road bike. It has so many miles on it, and it's not the top of the line bike or anything. It's just I think me and the bike are just one together, and it's
Yeah,
been through
cool.
so much. So you know it's funny to have a close relationship with your bike, but it's true.
Yeah, you definitely spend a lot of time on it. Now,
Yeah.
what bicycle computer do you use, Chris? Garmin? Wahoo?
Yeah, I'm a Garmin guy. I use a Garmin Edge 1030,
Hmm.
um, and yeah, it's always preloading my maps ahead of time for the randoneering rides, and
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
gets me through. And the extended battery on that's it's good for like 30 hours. So
Hmm. Yeah,
um,
definitely. Now,
yeah.
do you train with power or heart rate?
Uh, Not really. I think I'm a little bit more old school where I would say I do about 95% of my training indoors.
Huh.
And yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? I know there's a lot of school of thought that you need to be outside and you need to do all your training outside. But for me to get my real long rides in, a lot of New Yorkers, we go to, it's called 9W. It's the path along right outside the city. It goes
Hmm.
near the George Washington Bridge and goes up to Bear Mountain and back. It's a nice 90-mile ride with a lot of climbing, but it takes me about an hour to drive there. So I'm very conscious about my time and how I train and when I train,
Hmm.
because we have two little kids now, so I don't have the
Cool.
luxury of just spending all day Saturday going out for a training ride. So
Yeah. How old are
uh,
your kids?
yeah, so we have our newest born is turning 9 months old in a few days, and then our other little guy. So that's George, and then our other little guy Thomas is turning 4 years old in February, and
Nice. Wow.
I can't keep up with him on his bike right now. We're going around
Yeah.
the neighborhood. He's flying on it, so it's
Yeah. Cool. All right, Chris, a few more sprint round questions here. What's your favorite ride snack?
Favorite ride snack? Oh man. Geez. It's funny. Whenever I have a ride snack and I think that I found something that's just great and I could eat it all day long, and then the
Yeah.
next ride it just won't agree with my stomach. So it's always
Yeah.
um I'm always alternating that, and I think if you ask me that question 10 different times, I'd give you 11 different answers. I'm constantly always changing up nutrition, but I do stick with you can sports drink. They've been helpful for me, and they've been um, providing my fuel for the past since earlier this year, and
Okay.
the liquid calories are just for me it goes down pretty easy.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
but if I on the long randoneering rides, if we in New Jersey here in the Northeast, Wawas are pretty common, and
Hmm.
usually get those big style. They call them the Philadelphia pretzels, and
Oh, cool.
they always seem to
Yeah, sounds good.
yeah, it tastes good.
Now, how about after a nice long hard ride like your virtual HooDoo 500? What's your favorite post-ride meal?
I'm a big fan of burritos and pizza.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, very
and
popular on the show. Pizza seems to be the number one pick so far.
yeah, it's
What
it's the
what
family loves it.
toppings?
So yeah, I'm a traditional guy, just plain cheese pizza, and
Oh, wow, not even pepperonis, huh?
yeah. So
Wow,
it's
cool, cool. Okay, when was your last ride and how long was it?
it was actually the HooDoo 500. That was my last ride the last weekend. That was the 510 miles, 30,000 feet of climbing.
Hmm.
Um, I've actually been training for some more running races recently.
Hmm.
Spartatlon Ultra Marathon is the very prestigious running race in Greece,
Hmm.
and that's 53 miles. You have 36-hour cutoff, and just to qualify and earn a bid for that is for me a dream come true.
Hmm.
And so I've been in running mode for the past few months,
Hmm.
and that just got canceled. So I'm
Oh,
working on that's supposed to be the end of September. So I'm
I
working
see.
on a plan B right now of
Hmm.
a different route here in the local area. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, sorry to hear that, but we'll look forward to seeing you out there hopefully next year. Now,
yeah.
when it comes to riding, do you prefer the climbs, descents, rollers, or the flats?
Oh, I love climbing. You know, uh, I love climbing. I love that. I
Hmm.
would say two things. One, climbing, and I love time trials.
Hmm.
I love that feeling of you know just being absolutely gasped where you can't even
Hmm.
breathe and your lungs are busting and your eyes are bulging out of your head and you're just trying to hang on for dear life. And it's funny. I do all these ultra cycling races, and so when
Hmm.
I do a 10 or a 12 mile time trial or a sprint race, people are like, "Oh, that's nothing for you." And I'm like,
Yeah,
you have no idea that the my heart rate is, as I
yeah.
mentioned, I don't train with the heart rate monitor, but I could pretty much tell you to the number of what my heart rate is during my rides just
Hmm.
based on doing this for such a long time. And you
Hmm.
know if you can't breathe and your heart rate's pretty high. And
Yeah, very
you end up
true.
don't get me wrong, in the middle of it I'm hating life and thinking, why would I do this? But
Yeah,
when it's over, it's pretty fulfilling feeling. So
yeah. So it explains a lot and gives a good context to why you've been able to do so much over the last 10 years. You're just really a sucker for punishment. Now, you said you like climbing also. Now, I'm curious, how tall are you and how much do you weigh?
yeah, I'm 5'11", my height, and then my weight is the mid 140s right now.
Mm,
I've uh, I've bounced around with my weight over the years. I've been more recently in the higher 150s, and just of recently I've been now in the 140s. And
Okay.
I think that's I could feel that helping out my climbing when I
Hmm.
do the hills, and whether or not it's on my indoor trainer or if it's outdoor riding, I can feel the difference with the weight loss too. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah.
Very cool. Now, how about going down hills? Do you like going down hills? Are you good technically? What's your max speed down a hill?
Yeah, no, I am. It's so funny. I keep hearing it's either you're a downhill rider or you're not, and
Mm.
I am not. I'm the guy that I'll
Yeah.
ride and climb and close the gap, and then on the downhill, I usually give it all back.
Mm.
Um, it's funny, I guess a part of me is an adrenaline junkie where I'm a certified skydiver from back in the day, and I do enjoy the need for speed. But
Yeah.
yeah, downhill, maybe it's I'm just at a different point in my life, and
Mm.
I've seen too many crashes over the years, and
Right.
uh, I don't I'm not on the brakes going down, but I'm also not just bombing it recklessly. So
Yeah.
um, you know,
Yeah, better to be safe. I think we're on the same page there.
yeah, and
Okay.
especially in the mountain biking,
Yeah.
some of these descents are coming off, tops of the mountains, and
Mm.
something, it's not only yourself, but there's other riders around you and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm just totally sounding like a wimp right now, but
Well, don't worry. I think your track record will make up for that. So, just a couple more questions here. What's your favorite time of year to ride in the fall, the winter, spring, or the summer?
oh man, you know, I like riding all year round, to be honest with you. It's I think it's one of those things too. It's when it's really hot outside, I'm wishing it was the fall, and then when it's cold, I'm wishing it
Mm.
was the summer. So,
Mm.
I'm always wishing that the grass is greener on the other side. But yeah, I think just being outdoor and knowing that you're capable of riding, and you're fortunate enough where you're able to have that joy of riding. Just
Mm.
the weather really doesn't matter. It's just
Mm.
be happy you're outside, and you're able to ride.
Yeah, I like that perspective. How about time of day that you prefer riding or you get most of your riding in?
Morning, middle of the night.
Mm.
If I have to do a weekend century, if it's especially as I mentioned earlier with the kids in the family, I'll
Mm.
jump on the bike at uh, you know 1 or 2 in the morning,
Mm.
ride my century, and time it so that when the kids are waking up, I'm able to um, you know do my father family duties.
Yeah, cool.
But I'm off to bed early.
Mm.
We're typically I try to go to bed when the kids go to bed, so eight
Mm.
thirty, 9, or sometimes we'll stay up and watch a show with my wife after the kids go to bed. And
Mm.
but I do try to get 7 hours of sleep in a night. Um,
Cool.
I think that's super. I think that's always like the X factor that nobody talks about, and
Mm.
this mentality. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I think for an endurance athlete, it'll run
Yeah.
you in the ground pretty quickly.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, and
Yeah, cool. Okay. Now, do you think ultra cycling requires more physical or mental training?
wow, it's like a chicken and egg question, right? Man,
Yeah.
you know, you got to say most. What is it? I think the expression for like ultra running is always, that it's 90% mental,
Mm.
then the other half is physical, which obviously the
Yeah.
doesn't fully make sense. But yeah, I think it's always about pushing the limits, and most of these times during these rides, you're already past the limits, and you need to go a little bit further.
Mm.
And when you're on a bike for that long, you know things creep up into your head. They you feel little things in your body, and you're wondering, am I going to be okay? Is there an injury coming on? Am I eating enough? Am I, getting enough power? Yeah. So the mental part of it is always is always a
very
challenge.
important.
Yeah, and it's you get the sleep deprivation coming in too, and so it's so many different elements.
Yeah, definitely a combination. Last sprint round question, Chris, and I love all your answers. You've done a lot of events. What's your favorite, specifically for bicycling?
Bicycling, oh man. I would say that the Silver State 508 was very special for me. The reason I actually did that was I did the Badwater 135 race that same summer, and it used to be called the Adventurer Cup, where if you did Badwater and then the 508, which it started off with the Silver State 508, then went to Furnace Creek, and then back to Silver State, which is now directed by Rob, who's another New Yorker who's just a great guy. Yeah. But I had a couple local friends out here come out and crew for me. Cool. And it was just, two Staten Island guys were on the same board of directors for Staten Island Running and Community organization out here. And, they're Bob Orzam, who's an incredible athlete. He's a sub 2:30 marathoner back in the day, and now he's completely into cycling. And he's, if there's anybody who could motivate you to get up a hill, it's him. Yeah. And Larry Rampanella, who, the guy is just full of positive energy, and yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for all of that, Chris. I do want to get to the HooDoo 500 and many of the other events that you have competed in. I think everyone will get a kick out of it. There's just so much there to be inspired by. And so I do have a few of your photos here from Facebook. This was from your virtual HooDoo 500. So we could see your setup there. You have one of your Cannondale bikes on the trainer, I suppose, and I see some aero bars on there as well.
That's right. That's my Cannondale Slice. That's my backup tri bike, and that's always it's been on the trainer. I get all my bikes at Bennett's bicycle shop here in Staten Island. They've been around since 1896, one of the oldest bicycle shops in the country. Nice. And they're always looking out for me, Tommy and George Bennett. And funny enough, Tommy and George Bennett, the owners of the cycling shop, that's not the reason I name my kids Tommy and George. So but it is a big coincidence. But that's Thomas right there. And he's, my number one fan. He's always cheering me on and comes to a lot of the events. And, that's also cool. One of the luxuries of riding inside my living room for a lot of my training. I do most of it, as I mentioned, in the middle of the night while they're sleeping. But the times, like during this ride, we were watching, some of his favorite TV shows on the television and Netflix, and just to be able to see them, it's just a great feeling.
I can imagine, and he looks very happy there that his dad is doing so well in a very difficult race. Looks like
that's my wife Colleen, and my other youngest one, George. None of this is possible without her. She's by my side for everything, and it's so funny. My first endurance race, my first race, was, as I mentioned, the New Jersey Marathon in 2010, and we just started dating. A few months prior to that, and everybody had thought that because I met her, I started doing the running, and that was just one of the first one of the conversations that we had. I said, I want to train for this marathon, and I just want to do one marathon and just check it off the bucket list, and I'll be done with it. And, that ended up turning into full marathon in every U.S. state, and we just there was more of a combining our love for travel and running,
Nice.
and she came to me with to majority of the states, and
Wow.
had a lot of fun, and yeah, it took
Incredible.
3 years to do all 50 states, so it's
Wow.
fun.
Well, that must have been a really fun time, and glad you could do it together as a family. Very
Yeah,
cool. I like this photo. Must have
you
been a
know,
lot of air drag there.
it's kind of funny. I'm not too big on social media. I post after, I don't post so much personal stuff. More or less, it's usually I use it for a lot of my racing, just
Mm.
to kind of so I can backtrack, in the later parts of my life, and just kind of
Oh.
a good place to centralize all my racing stuff. But when I
Yeah.
posted this photo,
Mhm.
you'd be surprised. I got a bunch of comments from friends and family asking me why I'm wearing the helmet, and
Uh-huh.
just like everything else on Facebook, it was just for
Yeah.
the photo op and the
Yeah.
would you be doing it if it wasn't posted on Facebook? And
Yeah.
I think in this case, yeah, because it was just making my kids laugh, and then my kid was running around with the helmet too, and
Yeah. Well, it looks cool. Yeah,
yeah.
nice photo memory. Oh, there's the pizza.
There's the pizza. That's right.
Wow.
You know, like I mentioned, my wife and my family, they're always my parents are, we're in a two-family house, so my parents are right here also, and my sister lives nearby, and
Hmm.
they're always keeping me fueled for these endurance events, checking on my bottles, and
Cool.
ordering the pizza.
That's
I
awesome.
like most people, I talk out of both sides of my mouth. I'll tell you in one conversation that I'm very conscious of being a sugarless, you know, fueled athlete.
Hmm.
UCAN is very, um, it's all sugar free, and I try to stay away from sweets. But then, my sister comes over with a tray of cupcakes for me, and next thing you know, while I'm in, hour
Yeah, I
27
think
of
I saw
hour.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is, and I'm mini cupcakes, so you can't eat them fast enough, and
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah,
And I did see one other photo here, so it looks like your course that you did and your
yeah,
510 miles, 40
yeah,
hours, 37
yeah.
minutes.
So that
Yeah.
was kind of interesting, right? Because so the travel restrictions for New Yorkers are we were allowed to travel to wherever we want, but coming back in from I think it's a list of like 34 states right now. When you return, there's a 14-day mandatory quarantine, and
Right.
it's just too much of a risk, for us, and
Definitely.
it's just easier to stay indoor and then travel into Utah. So when Deborah, who's the race director of HooDoo 500, who's awesome, by the way, we were communicating all through the night through text messages,
Nice.
offered this virtual event, and uh, um, sorry, I have a couple little guys coming in here. Hi, George.
Cool.
Yeah, come
Yeah,
here, buddy.
I know all about that dad life since I have a 6-month-old now. Definitely a joy.
What's your 6 months old name?
Nolan.
Nolan. Hey, Nolan. Hi, George.
Hey there,
Hi, everybody.
George. Wow, I think
Hello.
my son might have that exact same design on his top. That's cool. So cute.
There's my wife helping
Future
me out.
Ironman slash ultra endurance athlete. Well, family probably.
That's it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Um, so anyway, yeah. So one of the when they proposed a virtual race, they said you just got to get the miles and the climbing
Mm,
elevation and figure it out on your own.
mm,
So it was a good opportunity to be creative. I did play around with a couple different ideas.
mm,
I did a virtual Everest earlier this year,
mm.
and I was thinking of maybe doing that, getting the vert out of the way, and then coming back to the flats and doing that for the second half. But then I decided I used my Wahoo kicker and Zwift, and within
Right.
Zwift I used a route that was called the Bigfoot Hills,
Mm.
It was 42 miles, 2,300 feet gain per lap. So
Mm.
I did 11 and a half laps, and then I went off to one of the mountains to get the remaining 4,000 feet of climbing in.
Mm.
And man, that was a sufferfest after. And then once I finished that, I think I had like just 2 miles left of flats, and just
Wow, incredible. Yeah, and with the virtual riding, there were a number of other virtual racers, but of course, everybody was choosing and selecting their own
yeah.
course and their own way of accomplishing that. And well, it sounds like you did structure a nice sufferfest, like you said, for yourself. But as you mentioned, you do a lot of training indoors. So I'd imagine then this virtual kind of riding, even at this distance, wasn't maybe as difficult for you as it was for some of these other racers who were expecting to ride on the actual road, right?
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of an advantage. Um, Although going into it, I knew what exactly I was in store for. So,
Mm.
it's funny. A lot of these events, when you hear about it, you're all excited, and yeah, let me sign up. And then, once it's time to really get on the bike and start pedaling,
Yeah.
reality kicks in very quickly, and uh, for me, I'm overcome with regret. And but once you settle in, and especially once it's over, it's always worthwhile. I did do a few other long rides during this um, you know COVID period. Well, first of all, I was uh, training for my first DECA, which is a 10
Mm.
Ironman in 10 days in Hawaii. Supposed to be this past August. It's now moved to May of 2021. And I was just doing just a lot of riding on my indoor bike. And then once COVID hit, I started seeing more and more of these challenges. And the three notable challenges that I think I've done in the past few months was, one is Jordan Bryden, who's a Canadian professional triathlete,
Mm.
put up a pretty big race for the CAF charity, and it was a last man standing format.
Mm.
Um, and it was essentially the first 24 hours was a certain you had to do a certain distance on the hour, and then at the
Mm.
24th hour it was no more getting off your bike, and no more and you had to keep maintaining a certain wattage, and last person
Wow.
ending wins. And I ended
Mm.
up winning that event after 36
Nice.
hours. It's kind of funny. I think I was playing
Incredible.
more of a mental game with other people, and
Huh.
I said, my goal was just to stay on for 72 hours. And,
Mm.
I held up a diaper to the Zoom video chat
Uh-huh.
showing, like, I said, that's how I'm going to go to the bathroom. How is everybody else going to go to the bathroom? Can't get off the bike. And
Yeah,
I think if people were settling, it's getting into people's heads. And
hilarious.
I was trying to have some fun with it, and trying
Cool.
to, smile when I was really suffering.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ram offered two options for the virtual Ram and then the virtual ride across the West. And I did the virtual ride across the West, and took a few days off from work, and decided to do a long, I think it was 950 miles, 80,000 feet of climbing from my living room.
Wow.
And then the third thing was, as I mentioned, the virtual Everest.
Mm.
I ended up doing like 228 miles,
Mm.
29,000 feet of climbing in
Wow.
16 hours. But now, I mean, everyone's virtual everything now. The records gets
Yeah.
broken every day. It's really cool. I think, I'm seeing the pros go out and smash the record, and
Right.
it's I mean, as much as I love doing sports, I love watching it also, and just seeing
Mm.
other, like, because professionals are on another, just a completely other level. And
Yeah.
I just, love reading or watching it, and seeing what other people are doing, and,
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries.
Yeah. And so it does sound like you have a ton of virtual riding experience. Congratulations on all your big achievements this year,
all those
virtually.
miles and going nowhere.
Yeah, that's a whole nother feeling. So I would actually like to discuss that in more detail for those who may not be familiar with riding indoors much, or even ultra racers. Maybe there's a lot of them that prefer riding outdoors, and that's the fun of it. But I have been increasingly meeting people like yourself who actually either prefer riding indoors or find themselves riding a lot more indoor. So tell me about your thought process and just mentally, not just in training, but say for the virtual race across the West, the HooDoo 500. How do you start? I mean, when you're at mile zero and you have 500 miles, you have 900 miles to go. Like, how do you pace yourself mentally?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think, it goes back to the week prior, right? Uh, Trying to have your sleep game ready going into the event, and being as fresh as possible, which is extremely challenging at times, given, the fact that I mentioned we have kids, and I do have um, uh, a job that's pretty demanding also, in the IT world at a New York City law firm. So that, I'm always on my toes, but trying to get your sleep ahead of time, I think, is really critical, because there's only, so much caffeine or energy stuff that you can take during the ride. But then, once the ride kicks off, it's just, to be honest with you, I distract myself with Netflix too in the background. I had the
Mm,
luxury of the Tour de France was just starting, so I was watching that, and I was watching some shows with my kids, and then catching up on some Netflix series with my wife too in the middle of the night. So some of it's just a distraction game, because
mm,
and I just make small little goals, and whether it's ultra running or ultra cycling, it's all about small milestones, right? You
mm,
can't start at mile zero and say, you know, all right, now I got 30,000 feet more of climbing and 510 miles. That's so overwhelming for anybody.
right.
It's just taking, small steps and small little victories. And, for me, it was doing one lap at a time, knowing that I had 12 laps to complete.
Mm,
Uh, and yeah, and not think too far ahead. But at the same time, I'm also, I think my biggest skill set is blowing up and going out way too hard. So I've done that more times than I can count. So I just need to
Now that's my
try
next
to,
question for you. In
yeah.
addition to just mentally preparing for it, so that sounds great. You definitely plan ahead of time. But how about just in terms of your pacing? I mean, are you looking at your power output or your heart rate? Are you trying to stay within a certain zone? How are you pacing yourself?
I think it's a lot just on feel, right?
Mm,
I can, I, I know if my heart rate starts going through the roof and I start breathing heavy and I'm starting to drip pretty bad, then I'm going to really pay for it later on.
mm,
So, I, that's the problem with Zwift too, is that sometimes you start racing other people who,
yeah.
you might be on mile like, you know, 220 and they're on mile 15. And
Mm,
then, you're side by side and you find yourself in a little competition,
yeah.
and I gotta try to stay away from that.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
so funny, I'll half the time it's just a mental thing. And I'll tell my
Mm.
wife, oh, this I just dropped this guy, and she's like, did you know? Did he? Do you think they knew you were racing? The answer is probably not. So,
That's
uh,
funny.
yeah, it's my own little.
Now, how about rest periods? Did you go into the HooDoo 500 with the plan, knowing that you wanted to take a break every so many miles or every so
Yeah.
many hours?
It's funny. I did take a 25-minute rest period, um, in the later part of the event, in the morning around 4 in the morning. I got off and decided to um, just lay next to the bike on the floor and set
Mm,
the alarm for 25 minutes and
mm,
took a break. Prior to that, I put the kids to bed, so I was off the bike for a little bit then too. When the kids got up, I ate breakfast with them. I think I thought about it, and I decided to enjoy it a little bit more than just completely kill myself. Because I think if I was sitting here telling you that I finished in 38 hours versus 40, would it make that much of a difference? I think if I was actually out on the race course racing with against other competitors, and you have a crew, and the family's back home, it's a bit of a different environment. So so I try to enjoy it, and got off a few times when I felt like it was time to get off, and I knew I was in striking zone of finishing, so I was just trying to have some fun.
Yeah. And when was that? When did you feel like, okay, I'm towards the end, it's the home stretch, it's downhill from here?
Oh man, like I mentioned, I saved the last 4,000 feet of climbing towards the end, and I was not. I was kind of regretting that. I was saying, oh man, what did I do here? And there's this one big hill in Zwift where I just was able to, my power wasn't too pretty at the end. I was just in kind of grinding it out and doing whatever I needed to do to get that elevation gain in. And, and the hill I did was the Epic King of the Mountain in Zwift. And so when I had to do it 2 more times at the end, I just, I knew I knew it was going to be over. And it's so funny too. It's so anticlimactic because I think I finished at 1 a.m, and everyone's sleeping here, and it's like, yay, I did it. Okay, take a shot. Like there's no one here to celebrate, and I'm not gonna wake the family up for that. They did celebrate in the morning, and then they had a massive pancake breakfast for me, and
nice.
they made signs and cheered me on. So
that's cool. Well, fun experience.
Yeah.
Now, so was that last bit of climbing, would you say those were the low points, or where else was a low point? And what was the high moments? What were the best times for you?
Yeah, man, so many dark, low moments, right? And it's so funny. They just disappear at the end, right? As soon as you're done, and all those bad memories kind of go away, and you start thinking, oh, maybe I'll do it again. But during the event, there's so many low periods. I would say miles. The first 2 centuries, moderate pace. I think I did the first 200 miles in like 12 hours, and then I started putting dopey thoughts in my head. I was like, maybe I'll knock this thing out in 30 hours, and then I think I started to go a little bit harder, probably more than I should. And then I could just see myself like paying for that decision. And miles, I would say miles 300 to 400 were pretty ugly. Yeah. I was in,
well, 500 plus miles. You also did the virtual race across West 900 miles. That takes Pain Cave to a whole nother level.
Well, like I mentioned, I'm in training mode for these ultra running races right now, and in the month of August, I ran 500 miles going into that race. Incredible. So from August 1st to August, I think it was August 27th, I ran 500 miles. One of the, and I also 62 of those miles were in a New Jersey Trail Series race. It was that they had 100K, and I was fortunate enough to win that race. It was my first real running race since February, so it was kind of it was very it was a bit different, obviously, with the social distancing and the check-in and stuff. But when the race kicked off and started, it was just cool to be racing again, and it was an extremely challenging course, and throughout the whole month, just a lot of running miles in, and not as much cycling, which kind of my confidence was not not where it should be going into an event like that. But I've been doing a lot of hills on the running too, so I think I know they're completely different muscles and stuff, but kind of worked out in the end. I will tell you about another low point in the race was at the very end when I was finished and I was all excited, and on Zwift I used my iPad as the setup, and I hit the end and save, and it crashed. The app crashed, and I took photos of it as before it, just to as I've been doing throughout the whole ride, just to document it and sending it over to the race directors.
Yeah.
And my heart went in my throat. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was ready to cry. It's not on Strava. It never happened, right? So that mentality, I opened the app again and I took a screenshot. It said, your last activity is still in progress. Do you want to continue? And I said yes. It opened up, and then I was able to save.
That's good.
Work out fun. I've never had that happen to me before, and man, I didn't want to lose that. So at the end of the day, if you don't have, I do this stuff for myself and for my family, but I wanted that file and I wanted it uploaded. Maybe it's the ego in myself. I don't really know, but I just know that I wanted it, especially after, being sleep deprived for 40 hours.
Well, glad you were able to resume that. But I also was curious about the sleep. So you did take that 25-minute break, but you didn't actually get any shut-eye, or did you?
I did. I passed out. I mean, don't even think twice. I put the alarm on the side. All right, I'm right on the floor. My bike's right next to me here, and I have a towel. I use that for my pillow, and close my eyes. I mean, I passed out instantly. I did. I think it was at 1 p.m. The next day. I think I was closing in on mile 400. I took a 10-minute nap, and I asked my wife, Colleen, I said, can you, just look at I said, as soon as my eyes close, I'm going to pass out. And, I laid on the floor, and I wrestle a lot with the kids, and my Thomas thought it was wrestle time. And man, my eyes closed, I passed out, and man, he jumped right on my back. And at that point, I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm about to be broken by a 4-year-old.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, a big congratulations again, Chris. I mean, that is an incredible achievement. The distance alone, riding indoors alone at any distance, even above 1 hour, because a lot of cyclists hardly do any indoor riding. So well done on that. And I'm sure there's a lot of memories, but also a lot of hard times. Glad you made it through that. And now you could just count that as great experience for yourself.
I will say, but I have a lot of really, I'm just in a solid group of amazing endurance athletes, right? These guys are a lot of them in the New York City area. Some of them are throughout the country and throughout the world. I stay in touch with a lot of them, and they're always just, positive energy, just sending text messages, or, they know what I'm going through, and, the suffering, and they understand, the why, that we're just, about pushing the boundaries and, challenging ourselves to, gives us an opportunity to learn more about ourselves and what we're capable of. But, these friends that I have and teammates, and they keep me going, and, they're always there for me. So I'm just very, very fortunate. Yeah.
That's great. Iron sharpens iron, and teamwork definitely makes the dream work. Now, physically, spinning so much on the bike, I mean, I'd imagine the pace is changing here and there, but riding is definitely different on an indoor trainer. Tell me about how your legs were feeling, or any other part of your body.
If I put the cream on my bottom, not as much. I do a lot of my cycling without any creams. I'm a fan of the thought of, to just strengthen myself. And, same thing with a lot of my training, anything under 2 hours, I won't take any nutrition, and just try to see what the body's capable of doing. And then when it comes for race day, I know a lot of people are going to think that's not the way to do it. You're supposed to train with your nutrition as if you're preparing for racing, but I just don't. And the same thing for the cycling. I just use a little bit of cream throughout the event, nothing crazy. And I was definitely a little bit chafed on my behind towards the end of it, but nothing terrible,
Yeah. Nothing that you're not used to in doing all these ultra events that you do.
Yeah.
And I do want to get to some of your running, actually, because I think it's fascinating and helps people really appreciate who you are as an athlete and as a sportsman. But before then,
sure.
I do want to ask, obviously, the big question. Do you have plans to do the Race Across America?
Oh man. It's funny. I feel like a chump. I'm a 2-time Ram solo qualifier, and I have not yet towed the line yet. It's always in the back of my head. I think I feel like I've just constantly absorbing as much information about that race, and just trying to think about how I would strategize it. And it's always in the back of my head. I think down the road, I do have a few other big things I want to do first, and then down the road, a couple of years, I think I'd like to do that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it'll be nice to welcome you here in California for the starting line of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We'll have to have you back on the show for that and all the other things that you're up to.
Yeah.
And so thanks for sharing your experience with the HooDoo 500. Just incredible. I do have a series of slides that you graciously sent to me, which I think you've done a fantastic job with capturing a lot of these incredible events that you've done. And I'd love to breeze through them to give everyone an appreciation of the things that you've accomplished. Again, you've completed over 500 races, and that's not to say you just did 500 5K runs or something like that. You've been doing some of the most difficult and longest events that you can do in the world. So I want to go through each slide, and you can kind of just touch on each one a bit. And this first one, it looks like you did a super crazy, super cold run.
Yeah, it's actually part of the whole series, the 4 deserts. So after I did a marathon in every state in 2014, I was looking for the next adventure, and I stumbled on the 4 deserts. It's there are races around the world, self-supportive, 7-day events. It's actually 250 kilometers, 150 miles. I'm looking at the title right there, but I'll take the extra miles. And you carry in your food and supplies, and the race provides water every 10 to 20 kilometers, and you're pretty much out there on your own. And so for that year, it was the Jordan Desert in the Middle East, and then it went to a couple months later into the Gobi Desert. We were on the border of Kazakhstan and China. And then it went to Atacama in Chile. And then the final desert is what you see here, was down in Antarctica, which I didn't realize Antarctica was a desert, but it's considered a frozen desert. So
very interesting.
just an amazing, experience. Very talk about low moments. You're in the middle of nowhere, and you can only eat what you brought with you for that week. So you're trying to calculate and strategize enough calories versus how much weight do you want to carry. And man, I made so many mistakes during that, but it was made some great friends, and I'm friends with the race organizers, and I can't wait to do one of their events again down the road.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of low moments. Now, in an event like that, well, how many people participate in an event like this?
Yeah, it's about 100 to 200 people per event. And so each night you're in a tent with I think it was like 5 or 6 tent mates that they paired you up with, from people all around the world. And yeah, and you're just out of communication with everybody. There's no, you're not you're not allowed to carry your phone.
Hmm.
They did have a way you can send out an email every day, and you don't get replies or anything, so you're just completely out of touch, and it was pretty surreal feeling.
I
You know,
can imagine.
coming from a very heavily technology background, where I'm on the phone and emails 24/7, to really
Hmm.
just escape, and was just a pretty great experience.
Hmm. Yeah, looks awesome. I see you even got to see the penguins there. That's awesome.
Smelly little guys.
Yeah. So there's other ones here. You
That's
mentioned the
right. Yeah.
Atacama Desert.
Yep, that's Atacama. Yeah, they had man, that Atacama had everything. It had the heat, had elevation gain, it had sand dunes, it had the salt flats.
Mm.
Oh man, that was
And a huge pack, it looks like. How
yeah,
much does
yeah,
that weigh?
yeah. It's so funny. The first race, my pack was like 23 pounds, and it was the heaviest one out of everybody. And
Hmm.
and all the veterans were making fun of me, and 'cause I had stuff on there that I didn't need. I brought a book to read at night, and a little mini checker game, and
Hmm.
they would just laugh. And by the end of day one, I just dumped out anything that wasn't essential. I just basically tossed or gave to a volunteer. And
Uh,
so by the towards the end of like the last desert, my backpack was down to like 14 pounds. Just
wow.
anything that I could do to cut weight, I was
Hmm.
doing that. And
Very cool.
I had a
And
spreadsheet with every little gram and ounce, and trying to be as efficient as possible.
yeah, that does become important when you're carrying it for such a long distance.
Yeah,
But awesome photos there. I see here now you also have done the Badwater,
yeah,
135 miles.
yeah. That's right,
Death
and that's
Valley.
my pacer, Jim. He's from Illinois. He's a great runner.
Right.
So yeah, this is always a dream to come true, to take part of the Badwater 135. For the cyclists out there, this is a running event that goes from the lowest point in the North America, from Badwater boat basin uh, to the portal of Mount Whitney, and
Mm.
so which is the peak of Mount Whitney is the highest peak in the lower 48. And
Mm.
you were doing this in the middle of July, which is just it's pretty hot. So
Yeah.
just doing a lot of heat training, uh, and trying to properly stay hydrated, where I'm getting my electrolytes. And
Mm.
uh, yeah, it was I had a superb crew. Just going back to all these events, it's the same theme, right? It's like I
Mm.
have a phenomenal crew, just incredible family support, and just friends of the same mindset who are extremely supportive, and you know just just makes it all worthwhile. And
Mm. Yeah,
yeah,
very cool. I'm sure a lot of great experiences and memories there, but geez, the Badwater definitely a very difficult one with the heat. And those who are familiar with the race across America and race across the West, going through the desert, can get very hot as well. But usually, I've seen maybe about 110 to 120 at the most. And I know even this last couple months in Death Valley, I believe there was a record temperature, 130 or just
yeah, that's
around
right.
there. Yeah.
That's right. And I think truth be told, that thermometer is in the Furnace Creek section of the state park,
Right. Right.
and I think with the sun impact directly on it, it was kind of given a little bit of a show. I think I don't think it was really that hot. I think we were in the mid teens of like 113 or something like that. Not to say that that's not hot, but 106
Yeah.
is kind of
That
boiling.
yeah, that still translates to boiling.
That's right.
Badwater Cape Fear 52-mile.
Yeah. So
Mm.
I've done this a few times, and this is
Mm.
so for Badwater, there's an extensive qualifying process you have to go through. And
Mm.
um, I was trying to build my endurance resume over the last decade, trying to think of how to get into that race. And the the Badwater Cape Fear is there's a couple events put on by Chris Calimano, and who's back in the day he started off as a Ram finisher, and then he bought the Badwater 135 race, and he expanded out to a few other events, and one of them is in North Carolina, the Badwater Cape Fear, which is I think it's 52.4 miles. The first 12 miles is on road and trails on Bald Head Island, which is just an awesome place. It's no cars allowed. Yeah. Made a little family trip out of it, and the kids driving around, and we have a golf cart and stuff, and
Nice.
they're able to follow me throughout points of the course. And after
Cool.
the first 12 miles, it's 40 miles of sand. You go 10 miles out, 10 miles back, and you do that twice. And
Wow.
it doesn't matter who you are, how fast you are, the tides are going to be not your friend at some point in that race, and you have to make a decision. Am I going to run in soft sand, or am I going to stay in the hard sand and get my feet wet? And I've done a lot of training with wet feet, so I'm fine with I'm very fortunate with not getting too many blisters and stuff. So
Incredible.
Yeah.
You definitely have a wide range of experience, Chris. I think you are prepared for if survival on this planet was based on the ultra events that you had to accomplish, then I think you'd be pretty good, because you can do almost anything, it looks like.
Oh, geez. Except downhill on a bike.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There you
Guess
go.
you'll have to work on that one. All right. This one is nice for me. Again, like I said, I'm originally from South Africa. So tell me about your experience there.
Yeah, it was a crazy experience. So the Cape Epic, you have to ride it with a partner. It's not as a relay, but you got to stick together the entire time. My partner ended up dropping out after day 2, and so I was. You're able to still ride it as long as you meet the cutoffs as a solo rider, but it's just a lot harder. You're just dependent on yourself, and I'm not the most mechanical person. I try not to talk about how long it takes me to change a flat tire. So, and plus, you're in rugged terrain, pretty much, by yourself for a lot of this race. And I'm not a front of the pack rider in these mountain bike events. So, I'm trying to trail behind and make cutoffs, and there's nobody keeping an eye on you with your fueling and stuff. So I'm just trying to be smart and make the cutoffs, and it was extremely stressful at times. But man, the views, the terrain, the people just made it worthwhile. It was such a great experience. Some of the climbs felt like you were just climbing forever, and when you're on a mountain bike, sometimes it feels like you're working twice as hard and moving twice as slow, and
But I imagine very similar to riding on the indoor trainer when you're going 4,000 feet.
Yeah, it's the one thing being on the indoor section is that everything's temperature controlled, and I'm able to dictate my environment out there. It's the sun is beating down on you, or God, we got the South Africa winds. Justin, nobody knows more than you do, but we had some crazy windy days, and you're just grinding out, and you're trying to get behind a pace line if you can, you're just you look down and you're like, oh, I'm going 7 miles an hour. You're like, just want to just think it's never going to end. But that's the whole beauty of endurance sports and all these long stuff. When you're up, you never think you're going to be down, and then when you're down, you think you're never going to be up again. But you just keep moving forward. And
well said. Just one pedal stroke or one stride at a time. But very cool experience. Glad you were able to check that out. I see here. Let's see.
Oh man.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny. I've like I said, there's a lot of local races here. We have an amazing trail system here. Actually, I'm the first guy to run the entire trail system here in a single day. It's like 30 miles of trails, but
Hmm.
after all the back and forth, I ended up running like 52 miles and hit
Wow.
every trail, and it's amazing. But this event here, yeah, I've been fortunate enough to win a couple of them out here, and I was able to pick my son up and go across the finish line. It was finishing on a golf course here,
That's so
and
cool.
he's always um, loves seeing me run by. And although now, that he was a little bit younger in that photo, now he would run by by my side, and
Yeah.
at the end of some of these events, I can't even keep up with him. Getting
That's
top
so
up.
cool. A lot of good memories, and I'm sure they'll grow up to be just as crazy or even crazier if that's possible than daddy. All right, here's another one of the deserts.
Yep. Other full disclosure, these are actually 150-mile runs, self-supportive. Yeah, like I said, broken up over 7 days. It's 4 days of a marathon, a fifth day of a 50 miler. If you could do the 50 miler in one go, which I was fortunate able to do, then you have a rest day for 6.
Mm,
And then day 7 is the celebratory finish. It's always another 10 or 20K.
mm,
But yeah, beautiful scenery. I don't know if I appreciate it as much as I should have, because I was constantly looking at the ground, sucking up
mm.
air.
Yeah.
And then I look back at some of these memories, and I'm just glad that they put a photographer out there.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
incredible photos.
yeah. Um,
All right,
there you
right.
go.
So
That's
Hong
your
Kong.
sport, right? Because we had a
Yeah,
lot of
there we
South
go.
African mates out there. Yeah, I had a great opportunity. I transferred. I work in Lower Manhattan, and then we have our firm has 16 offices around the world, and I was able to transfer to our Hong Kong office
Mm,
um, uh, back in 2008 and 2009. Traveled all over Asia. I was on a rugby club out there.
mm.
Given my wrestling background, I was able to play the front row. I was the
Wow,
number 2. I was the hooker. So
nice.
after our full season of 15s, we traveled around Asia playing in tournaments in Bali and
Wow.
Cebu in the Philippines, playing 10s and 7s. We actually played the Vietnam team
Mm,
over in Saigon. Had a great just great opportunity. We just great teammates. I'm still friends with a lot of those guys. And Yeah, and there's a photo from the Great Wall of China. It's kind of funny. I when I moved back to the States in 2010, I decided to uh, take up running because
mm.
I didn't want to beat up my body as much anymore. I was coming into the office with too many black guys and
Yeah.
you still open wounds and stuff. So I figured out running sounds just nice and easy.
Yeah.
And then the running and the cycling ended up being real more punishing than I ever really would have ever expected.
Yeah, crazy. But it sounds like with rugby, for those who don't know, very physical sport, and you're not wearing any padding there, so you definitely conditioned your body.
Yeah, I love the fact with rugby, it's full go, right? You're not
Yeah,
constantly stopping and going. It's just,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love about watching the sport as well myself. All right, here we go. So one of your Ironman triathlons, the
Yeah,
championship in Kona.
full disclosure. I got in through the legacy program, so
Hmm.
I don't want to give the impression that I qualified to get there. My fastest Ironman is in the 11-hour range,
Hmm.
and so Ironman has this program where if you do 12 Ironman, you have an opportunity to race Kona as
Ah,
a legacy athlete, and so I uh, qualified that way, and
awesome.
yeah, really excited for that opportunity. Uh, we had just the opportunity after opportunity presented itself, and I actually did the um, Xterra World Championships in Maui 2 weeks
Oh,
after that. So to double up the World
wow.
Championships was a pretty cool thing. You got an extra shirt and stuff.
Nice.
So it was a great experience. It's a lot of fun. It was a great family trip. My we
Okay.
celebrated my dad's birthday out there too. They flew out, and then my wife and kids came out. And we had a great time.
Nice.
And then
Yeah.
so to keep the to have a little bit fun while I'm out there too. I in Honolulu they had a 55-mile trail run that had 12,000 feet of climbing.
Oh my
It's the
goodness.
HURT. HURT is the Hawaii Ultra Running trail community
Hmm.
in Hawaii. They put on the famous HURT 100-miler every year in January, and so
Okay.
they put on a October 55-mile race, and just absolutely destroys the quads. And
Yeah.
yeah,
You couldn't resist signing up for that to punish your body even more
yeah, these
as a
people are
recovery.
the salt of the earth, but they're just great people. And
Yeah.
hopefully one day I can get into the HURT 100 event.
Yeah, that's cool, Chris. And I would say 12 Ironmans to get into the legacy program is not a small feat either. So well deserved. Glad you're able to enjoy that. Leadville,
Oh man,
Packboro, 22-mile race,
yeah,
Colorado. That looks like fun.
oh, so much. I don't even know where to begin here. So I guess the first fun fact here is that the state sport of Colorado is pack barrel racing. I think
Hmm.
most people would think it's something to do with skiing or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so pack barrel racing is a old mining sport that was picked up where I guess the miners would see who would have the faster donkey, and then they would run it up the mountain and run it down. So
Wow.
this is a Leadville, Colorado. This is the week before the Leadville mountain bike race, and that's 2 weeks prior to the Leadville run, which I did both
Hmm.
of those. And so, yeah, I had arranged to get a donkey. My sister came out with me for this race. She wanted to actually, she didn't believe me that this was going to happen until she saw it with her own eyes. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's Smoky. I ended up finishing 10th place. I won $50 and a case of beer. And
Nice.
it was, I think more importantly, I earned a little bit of respect from the Cowboys out there who
Hmm.
weren't sure that a Yankee like myself could hang. And
Yeah. And I
we
guess
went
you
up.
also you ended up with a longtime donkey friend.
That's right. Yeah, I must have fed him about 200 carrots.
Wow.
Just taking care of him. Smokey,
Hmm.
Smokey, and I have a really good bond and connection.
That's
We did go up to Mosquito Pass in Leadville, which is over 13,000 feet high. So it
wow.
was,
Yeah.
still, a pretty grueling time.
Yeah, I can imagine. But a lot of fun times, Chris. It looks like you've had a lot of great memories and a lot of fun times. Here's another one in the snow, but I'd imagine nothing compared to Antarctica.
No, actually, you know what? Antarctica was in November, so it's a little bit of
Oh,
their warmer period, but it was still pretty cold out there. But my wife, Colleen, she's her family's. She grew up in Michigan. Her family's from Michigan, so we
mm,
go out there quite often. And I have, it's funny you asked me how many bikes I have. I didn't include my Michigan bikes. I have a road bike, a fat tire bike, and a mountain bike out there too. So I guess I got bikes scattered around. But it gets cold out there. I mean, this was the week I was out there for this ride. It was, and this was just a self-supportive ride. It got to below zero at times. And I
wow.
just went from, they live on a farm area, and I think it's only like a 80-mile ride. But I was
Mm,
riding through the snow along the highway and the fields and the backcountry, and I made it to I think I made it to one of the lakes there, and uh, yeah,
insane.
it's funny. I did do their. I'm not sure if you're familiar with gravel grinder races. Dirty Kansas is the big one
Hmm.
down in
Yeah.
Kansas. They have a similar one out here in Michigan. It's 213 miles. It's called the Coast to Coast, and it's across Michigan. And I rented a gravel grinder bike. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I forgot I
Yeah.
even had that. I rented a gravel grinder bike, and if you finish before sunset, you get like an extra award. I think it's
Mm,
nothing spectacular, but it was like 16 hours or something.
mm,
They they had more. I couldn't believe the sand that they had inside their forest that were actually causing issues for a lot of the cyclists. It was pretty challenging event. It was my first time on a gravel grinder bike. I didn't even get to try it out before the ride. I literally, I've done that for a couple races where I've just rented a bike and just kind of jump on to.
Yeah. Well, I suppose even if that didn't work out, you would have just ran the whole thing, right?
I have talked about cycling it and then running it back. So
Wow.
it's up there. It's on the mind.
Crazy.
The other photo there. So I'm a pacer for the New York Roadrunners, and do a lot of their pacing for half marathons and the iconic New York City Marathon. I've paced that the last 3 years. I typically pace the 355 marathon group. And the sign you see there is something we're supposed to hold in the corral while runners are starting to line up. And then, as we line up on the Verrazano Bridge, we put the sign to the side, and we have a smaller little sign that we have to hold. And then, before the race, I heard that nobody's ever ran with the big sign. A couple guys have tried it, and it's the wood is
nice
too thick for the hands. And I said, yeah, challenge accepted, and I did it. And that sign is it's actually it's still in our house right now. I was like, if I'm carrying that 26.2 miles, I went back on the subway in Columbus Circle and took it downtown, and then took the ferry over to Staten Island and was holding the sign the whole time. And it's still in the house today. And
that's cool.
And the next year I went back and they said, "Oh, you're going to do it again?" I said, "No, that's it."
Well, you definitely keep everything fun, Chris. So I'm sure your family gets a big kick out of all of that. And here's Paris-Brest-Paris, so bringing it closer to home to a lot of the cyclists that are from this event. Very difficult one as well.
This was, I think this was special too, because I was one of my best friends, Chris Solars, and I. We did this together. And we do a lot of our adventures or racing together. And we did a full Ironman in every New York City borough for 5 consecutive days. And we planned that. And Chris is just a phenomenal athlete. He has 12 Guinness records that either have to use your brain or your endurance. He had the record at one point for most miles on treadmill for 12 hours. He had the record for most elevation gain going up a staircase, like 35,000 feet over 12 hours while taking the elevator down. So we both did all our qualifiers together, and then we did this event together. We do a lot of our racing together. He's one of those guys that I mentioned. He is always just texting me, and
that's so cool.
When I'm down, he brings me back up again. So
awesome.
For Paris-Brest-Paris, what an experience. Just the people out there were incredible. I think I must have ate about maybe 110 croissants, if I had to guess. Just, the talents coming out, cheering us on, and, just trying to gut it out to stay awake. And because they start you off this one at I think my time to go was at 7 p.m. at night, so you're already in the hole. You're trying to sleep during the day, you're jet lag, and just
well, very fun.
This was another event, actually. I finished at 3 a.m, and all they did was talk about the big crowds at the finish line. When I finished, there was nobody there. And it was so anticlimactic. And then you go into tent afterwards, and there's people just sleeping on the floor, and you're trying to get your meal in. And I was trying to figure out how to get back to the hotel, and there's no taxis at that time. The trains aren't running, and I'm trying to ride back to the hotel, and I can't figure it out. And ended up riding another 30 miles that night, and found myself back at the finish line until finally the train started running at 7 in the morning.
Jeez, always an extra adventure for Chris.
Yeah.
And talking about records, you had mentioned your friend held a few, and with the pandemic and a lot of events being canceled, for many of the guests on the show and many other riders, they have been pursuing some kinds of world records for themselves as well. Anything on your bucket list?
Oh man, you know, the guy I mentioned, Chris Solars, and I, we have we're in the middle of planning one. For us, it's not really world records. It's everything falls in that FKT, fastest known time bucket list for the runners. There's a couple big trails that have not yet that have beatable records, and there's just so much. That's what I think we love about this. It's not just, you don't just show up and race or run, or there's so much planning involved. And I think for us, the strategic side of trying to it's always funny when we do these events, people are like, oh, why are you doing that? Why And it's like, why don't you ask me how? Like, the how and figuring out is actually a lot more of a cooler story than why, and just trying to, I think when we finally, solve the puzzle, like how we're going to do it, how can we actually do it? And then it gets real. It gets real quick, or you're trying to, like, man, now I actually have to execute. Can I do this? Can my body actually physically do this? And, we don't do a lot of these things where we already know the answer going into it. And that's where we try to find out, like, what we're capable of. So, yeah, I'm not going to get fully into it, but we do have a couple of things planned for the next year or two where, of trying to establish fastest known times for some of these massive, 200 plus mile treks. So
that'll be fun to watch, Chris. We'll stay tuned for that. Now, breezing through these last few here, I know you have the Penn Station, Newark to Penn Station, New York.
Yeah. So this was not a solo adventure. This was with Zanny Mangold, who's phenomenal, just incredible ultra runner. He's won the Keys 100. He's done Badwater. He's done it all. And he'll during COVID, he just went out on a track and did a 16-hour 100-mile run, just running loops all day long. Just incredible. So we spoke about, there's a fastest known time from Newark Penn Station, which is in New Jersey, to Penn Station, New York. And if you're taking the subway, it's not that long of a trek. But for us, there's no direct path across, and it's you have to go up New Jersey to George Washington Bridge, trek over, and then run south to Penn Station. And I told Zane, I think it was just a couple days before. I said, "What are you doing this weekend?" And he said, "Nothing." I said, "There's this really short record that has a, pretty beatable time. You want to just go out and smash this?" And I said, "Yeah, it sounds great."
Yeah.
Man, we got lost in Newark. We ended up quitting about 10 miles into it. We couldn't find the friggin' footbridge to run over. It was just a complete disaster. And it was raining, cold, and just Google Maps was just not helping us because it wasn't showing the footbridge, and we kind of knew that going into it, but we were just a little bit smug, and that was probably me. I was like, come on, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then finally we realized where we were, and once we made our way to Jersey City, all we had to do was run north to GWB. And we started starting to pick it up a gear. And because of the rain, the sleet, and the snow, they closed the bridge. And they just opened it as we arrived there. And otherwise, we would have been stuck and not been able to beat it. And so, we established the record, fastest known time. Actually, we just learned it. It was recently beaten. Somebody else had ran it a little bit faster. So now that we know the route, we're actually thinking of taking some time off of, the rules are not explicit of the route. So we have a couple other ideas of how to, cut a few corners of either stand-up paddleboard across the Hudson to get us there a little bit faster, or
that's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's the fun of it too, right? A lot of the ultra events is the strategizing, the logistics, like you were saying. And so, yeah, keep us posted on all of your adventures, and it'll be fun to continue watching and to
Yeah.
see, things like what we have here. A lot of awesome photos, a lot of nice
Yeah, this is
adventures.
Petra and Jordan. I was part of the Four Deserts. That was the first race. Just 2000. Uh, I think it's 2,000 years old or more. It's also the final scene in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusades, where Indiana
Mm.
comes running out with Sean Connery in that building, and there it is. Just amazing, just to even see that stuff. And then the Pennsylvania. I mean, that's one of my favorite 50Ks. It's the such my favorite race. I can't even think of the name of it. It's geez, I'm drawing a blank of which race that is. But it's part of the Pennsylvania Trail Triple Crown.
I see. Yeah, but epic photos, love it all.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. That's
Mhm.
so during the COVID crisis, all the races were canceled, and
Right.
I was just looking up some of the Staten Island fastest times, and
Mm.
when you start talking about anything under a marathon, those times are just ridiculous. I think the Staten Island record for fastest marathon is like in the two and two sub 220, and we've had a lot of Olympic caliber runners for shorter distance coming from Staten Island. But I looked up the Staten Island 50-mile record, and it's my one of my good friends, Spencer Ellis, and he had it at, I think it was like 7 hours and 20 minutes, and uh, I called my friends who are race directors, and I said, I really want to. I think I could break this record. You want to help set up a course? And they said, sure. You want to do it in the fall? I
Mm.
said, I want to do it. I want to do it tomorrow. And we settled on that. Was tomorrow was Friday, and we settled on
Uh-huh.
Saturday.
Wow.
They put timing mats in my driveway. We marked up a 2 mile course, and at this point, it was the first. This was, I think, in May, and people have really been just locked down and quarantined in their house. So it was a fun opportunity for people everybody was coming outside with their mask on, and people were on their bikes pacing me throughout the neighborhood. And
Oh,
even,
cool.
the former record holder,
Mm.
Spencer, like I said, just class act all around. He was out there supporting me, cheering me on. And
Mm.
it was just a great feeling. That was one of those things where I set it up, and just planning all this stuff. You do all this planning, and then it was time to execute. And it was windy that day, and there was a headwind
Uh,
on one of the turns. And man, I wanted to just, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it. I said, man, everybody's setting this up for me. Everybody's coming out for me. I was like,
yeah.
I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to hold on and do this. And just fortunately, and it started to get hot that day too. Just things kind of worked out, and I was just very, very lucky. Like I said, teammates, family, friends, everybody's coming out to support you, and it kind of bumps up your level of what you think you're capable of doing, and
Mm.
if I failed and didn't do it, they'd love me the same way, but
Yeah, totally. Definitely a recurring theme with all of your adventures. A lot of support, and it makes sense why you're able to continue going on and achieving everything that you have. And you did talk about skydiving.
oh yeah,
What's this one? I'm really curious to
yeah,
know.
that's oh man, it's the coolest race director in the world, Eric down in Florida. The Skydive Ultra Run, they have all different distances, and I did this one tandem here because I haven't jumped out of a plane solo in about 15 years, and I didn't feel like doing it for the first time in a race. And so yeah, you basically you skydive, you hit the ground, and then you run 100 miles.
It's cool.
For that race, it was actually raining in the morning, and then they canceled the skydive, so it was
Mm.
just a 100-mile run. And so okay, and it was a loop course. I think you do like 14 loops.
Mm.
And after I finished one or two loops, they said, "Hey, the sky's opened up. You want to skydive?" And I said, "Sure." And I said, "Oh
Cool.
man, the clock's still running." I said,
Uh-huh.
"Well, how long did it take to skydive? A few minutes." I had to fill out the paperwork. I had to wait in line. I had to get the suited up. I had to watch the safety video. I had to do this, do
Yeah.
that. I lost about 2 hours of my time, and it was worth it.
Yeah.
And I hit the ground. And now I'm under the clock to try to start to pick up this, to pick up the pace and make up for some lost time. And that's always a recipe for disaster in ultra events, because there's no such
Yeah.
thing as banking time or making up for lost time, because you always
Right.
then get back twice fold later on.
Yeah.
And everything was going, as planned, and I was on pace, and then a tropical depression storm hit us, and it was just
Wow.
miserable. It was like raining upwards into my face. I've never had anything like that before. I mean, I've
Yeah.
had bad weather and my fair share of storms, but it was just miserable, and just kind of gutted it out and finished, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, looks like one. But yeah, I'd imagine if someone just did that event in their lifetime, they'd be pretty content. But with all of these things that you've done, I'm not sure which one would be the most epic, the most fun, the most adventurous, the craziest, the most insane, the last one that anyone would ever do. Seems like there's no end in sight. So you also did the Silver State 508.
Yep, that was my first
You
time
enjoyed
qualifying
that
for
one.
RAN. Just over. I didn't break 40 hours. I just did a little bit over 40. That was like I said, I had a couple great friends from Staten Island come out and crew for me, and couldn't have done it without them. And it was it was a heck of a race. It was great, a lot of fantastic beauty and scenery. It's a nasty headwind towards the end that
Yeah.
makes you doubt everything, and then it ended with a pretty gnarly hill climb. I think it was a 10K hill climb. That was around, I guess, maybe mile 460 or something like that. And the lakes came to life, and I put some food in me before that, and went to work and did some climbing. Guys got out of the car, thought to cheer me on, but they were warning me of the mountain lions were on the loose, and keep riding or they're going to jump on you. And I kind of chuckled, and
Yeah.
guys were not laughing, so I knew they were serious. And so like, great, you're up for, at that point it was like 36 hours, and you have now worried about mountain lion. But
Yeah. That's so funny.
this is great. In Staten Island, they do these Wednesday night summertime runs. It draws a pretty decent crowd of
Yeah.
50 to 80 people, and I showed up with the stroller, and they made me start off in the back, and I said, I'm here to race, and it's only 2 miles, a mile out, mile back, and I think I just break 11 minutes for 2 miles here with him. And just under, it was at 5.5 minute miles.
Yeah.
And we go flying. There's a couple speed bumps along the way, and we're definitely catching a little bit of air on that, especially when there's somebody tailing me, and some fast runners out here. But we won about 4 or 5 races doing this, and it's been just a lot of fun. My wife and parents and my sister are always out at the finish line cheering me on. So.
Yeah, that's so much fun. Really glad that you're able to include your family and especially your kids. I'm sure they love it. And okay, so we have 100th completed marathon here, but you've done a lot more than that, right?
Yeah, that was man, he was just a little peanut then. That was my 100th marathon. That was in 2017, and it was cool. They gave me the New Jersey. It's funny. I mentioned earlier my first marathon was the New Jersey Marathon. And it was also my 100th marathon, so they gave me the number 100 bib, and went out, and it's a lot of fun. And then the other photos, just in a lot of big cities. What we do at 7 p.m., everybody honks their horn and ring bells, and as a thank you to the first responders. So. It's pretty cool. The whole neighborhood does it, and all of Manhattan does it. So it's I know a lot of the bigger cities do it. So we're always thanking those who are helping us.
Yeah. Well, a lot of fun. Really glad that we were able to connect and share with everyone, not just your experiences with the virtual HooDoo 500, which was an incredible achievement, but there's a lot of inspiration here and a lot of beauty and scenery and adventures that I'm sure people will appreciate and others can relate to. And so, final couple questions, sprint to the finish line questions to end on a fun note. But the first question I have is, well, what on earth is on your bucket list? It looks like you've already accomplished almost everything you can, other
Oh
than
man.
adventures
So
that you
yeah,
would create
I mentioned
yourself.
earlier, Epic Deca. That's 10 Ironman in 10 days on 6 different Hawaii islands.
Mm,
It's just so many unknown factors in that, and trying to do that next May. I have 7 years of lottery tickets for the Western States. It's always a dream to get into that. It's the oldest 100-mile run, and I don't know if that's in the world or if that's in North America, but it's the original, birth of the 100-miler. If I get into that, then I would have to do the Grand Slam, the four original 100-milers, Western States, Leadville, Vermont, and Wasatch in Utah.
mm.
Um, Rams always on the back of my mind, and oh man, just I think the end goal is longevity, trying to stay healthy and knock on wood, and just be able to, keep racing and hopefully race with my kids one day.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to have your kids on the show. Okay, Chris, so when is your next long training ride going to be? And how long will it be?
So I'm trying to figure out a way to get this 153-mile running
Mm,
in September, and then as soon as that's over, it's going to be back to work on the bike, and it's going to just I don't have a real date in mind yet, but I know the New Jersey Randoneers they were supposed to put on a big long 1200K from New York City to Montreal, Canada, and back. So
mm.
that's kind of been on the back of my mind too.
Cool.
Maybe doing that. The route. I know the route, so I was thinking of maybe doing that solo. So
Mm.
there's a couple things in the back of my mind, but I just want to get through this running section first, and then I'll
Yeah.
figure the rest out.
Yeah, a lot to keep you busy there. All right,
Yeah.
fun question. You kind of touched on earlier, but how would you rate yourself in terms of bicycle maintenance, scale 1 to 10, 10 being really good?
Oh man, do you have anything lower than a 0? Because that's definitely me.
Yeah.
Uh, just to give you one quick funny story. It's not funny
Mm,
at all. It's actually quite pathetic and sad.
mm.
As I mentioned, I do a lot of long distance randoneering with my buddy Chris Solars, and we were
Mm,
in a 600K, and it's like 2 in the morning. We're in the middle of New Jersey, in the middle of nowhere, and I just had my hub installed on my road bike, and
mm,
I got a flat tire and went off to the side, and the hubs require a hexagon ratchet to remove it to take the wheel off, and
mm.
I just thought it was using the quick release, and so he looks at me and goes, "How do you not have this tool?" And I said, I didn't think of it. I called up my as I said, the bike mechanic shops are awesome, the guys at Bennett's, and I said, "What do I do?" He goes, "Why are you calling me at 3 in the morning? I can't do anything for you." I said, "I don't have the tool or anything. You have any? Is there any other way of doing this?" He said, "No." And just better to be lucky than good. The pothole that I hit, some other rider hit the same pothole, and he got a flat tire in the same area that we did.
Oh
So
my goodness.
he had the tools and fixed me up. And since
Wow.
then, I always carry the proper tools. But I'm not winning any events for changing fast flat tire. For quick using a flat tire.
Yeah.
Um, I bring it to the bike shop before and after the events, have them fix it up. If I'm, when I ride Silver State, I send it out to the bike shop out there and had
Mm,
those guys in Reno fix it up for me. And,
mm.
uh, it's in the back of my mind to become a better mechanic. I have all the tools
Mm.
and everything. I just, these guys do an awesome job, and I'm trying to help out small businesses. So that's that's what I'm.
Totally. Yeah. And you can't do everything, Chris. You got to let some other people take part in the fun. Okay, final question. Who would you want to nominate for a future episode? Somebody that might have inspired you, a story that you would love to know more yourself or share with the world?
Oh, that's easy. Shane Trotter. He's on a different level than me. He's an elite ultra cyclist. He won the Silver State 508. He has a great backstory. He put a team that just crushed the record course for the HooDoo relay. I'm happy doing a virtual Everest, and he's doing a double Everest outside on a mountain. He's just a phenomenal cycling backstory. He had an off day, a weekend off, and he just went out and did a century under 4 hours. And, just after putting in like a crazy riding training week, and just a great guy, just super nice. We met out. I read his blog going into Silver State, and been in touch ever since. And, we're always cheering each other on through Strava, and, I'm always amazed what he's doing. He's always up to something. So you got to have him on the show. I'm surprised you didn't have him by now.
Yeah, well, great suggestion, and that's one of the beauties of the ultra world of sports and even ultra cycling. The ultra family and community, it always keeps things fun and interesting, and we keep pushing each other to new heights. And so glad to have you in the ultra family as well, Chris, and just such a pleasure to be able to chat with you and be able to share your adventures and stories with the world. You've accomplished a lot. And specifically with the HooDoo 500, congratulations again on such a terrific job there on your indoor trainer. And we look forward to following your journeys and having you back on the show very soon.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Justin. And looking forward to riding with you soon.
Yeah, definitely. Well, everyone watching home, hope you enjoyed that. A lot to digest, a lot to think about, but more importantly, a lot to be inspired by. So thanks again for tuning in to this episode. Give Chris a shout if you ever are looking for a fun adventure. And until later, keep spinning ultra, everyone.